Hi, this is Shag for the Extinct Attractions Club. Please join us for the Enchanted Tiki Room.
Buenos dias, senor and senoritas, and you dumb folks around here. Oh, ho, ho, ho. Hey, it's Joe time. Wake up, hey.
Oh, buenos dias, senorita. My siestas are getting shorter and shorter.
Walt brought in a little bird cage that he had bought for Lily in Paris. It was about so big. And it had a wonderful little bird, one of those little antique things that you wind up, and it was a concentric cams that really made it interesting. Not just like now you'd have the same thing over and over, but it would stop and then you'd think, oh, it's quit. And then it would peep it, you know, and start again, and then it would stop. And then it would start tweeting again, and one would, and maybe both would. And so it was just a very beautiful little bird cage. And he said, you know, they've done this in Europe for hundreds of years. He said, if they've done this well, he said, we can do things now much better. And we should be able to have a whole restaurant full of birds. And so we knew we couldn't have live birds in the restaurant.
Just as we had to learn to make our animated cartoons talk, we had to find a way to make these characters talk too. Now, to accomplish this, we created a new type of animation. So new that we had to invent a new name for it.
Audio animatronics?
Right, audio animatronics.
What happened was Walt called us in and one day and said, I want to do, this is when we were redoing Adventureland. Adventureland was getting a whole lift rather. And so he said, I want to do a little tea room, little tiki tea room. Just a little thing for, you know, sandwiches and tea or whatever, coffee. So he said, let's get some ideas from that. So John Hench was asked to do a rendering of what the tiki room the little room would look like. This was before it was called a tiki room. It was just going to be a little Tahitian restaurant. And it had some stuffed birds in cages hanging around. Anyway, they weren't stuffed. He actually had real birds in the cages. And so Walt turned to Johnny. He said, Johnny, he says, he called him Johnny. He said, Johnny, you got birds in the bird cages there. And John said, yes. And he said, you can't do that. You can't do that in a restaurant. And John says, why not? He said, because they'll poop in the food. And John says, oh, well, they're not, excuse me, Walt, they're not real birds. They're stuffed birds. And Walt said, John, Disney does not stuff birds and put them in a restaurant.
Don't follow what somebody else thinks Walt wants, or don't follow what you think Walt wants. Follow what you think will work in a situation, because you didn't want an absolutely realistic, all right? But you wanted one that would have a little bit of cheek on it, or maybe a little bit of something you could get some expression out of, and that sort of thing.
The beauty of the Tiki Room, other than the original song written by the Sherman Brothers, the Tiki Room theme song, is that the brilliance of it actually there were songs that guests recognized. They had never seen the show before when it first opened, and yet my grandmother, who came from Sioux City, Iowa, was comfortable sitting down, knew the songs, sang along with the birds, and she felt right at home with them.
Welcome to our tropical hideaway, you lucky people, you. If we weren't in the show starting right away, we'd be in the audience too. Everybody in the tiki room, in the tiki room. All the birds sing words and the crowd flowers croon in the tiki room.
A lot of people still, even with all this publicity and seeing, you know, the tiki birds talking on television, there still was a lot of mystery to a lot of guests. Why do I really need to spend an extra 75 cents to go and see this show when it's not included in my ticket book, you know? So that was where the idea for the Barker bird began.
Buenos dias, senor and senoritas. How do you do down there? Aloha. It is showtime now in Walt Disney's Enchanted Tiki Room.
I remember my first visit. It truly lived up to an extra charge